are listening to Red Ice Creations Radio. Welcome, this is Henrik Palmgren and we are recording from Sweden's west coast. The website is redicecreations.com, where you'll find our growing radio archive and our news updated daily and much, much more. So stop by and help spread the word about us. Today we got a very interesting program with Donald Scott, and we are going to talk about the electric universe and his book The Electric Sky. So stay tuned for that. Before we get to Donald, just let me say thanks to our monthly regular Christopher Morse and special guest Shabda Noor for the wonderful program last week. And Chris will be back the first Thursday next month. Now let's talk about the electric universe. Today we have Donald E. Scott with us on the line, and this is going to be a fascinating program. We're going to talk about the electric universe and plasma cosmology. And Donald is an electrical engineer and has been a lifelong amateur astronomer. Donald is the author of a book called The Electric Sky, a challenge to the myths of modern astronomy. And we're going to hear much more about his book here today. And I've been following along with the excellent site thunderbolts.info for a while now, and I've been frequently linking to many of those the articles they have over there from my site. And I find this theory and information fascinating. And I guess Donald have teamed up with Wall and David Talbot over at Thunderbolt, so I'm going to ask Donald about that later on. Okay, so welcome to the program, Donald. And we had some issues here in the beginning, but we seem to be up and running now. So welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Henrik. It's very, very much a pleasure for me to be able to talk to you about things that are near and dear to my heart.
Excellent. It's great to have you here. Yeah, and in the intro there, I mentioned Wal Thornhill and David Talbot. And what's your relationship to them and to Thunderbolts.info?
Well, right now it's pretty much an informal thing. There is a group of scientists, you would say, actually quite varied backgrounds and academic qualifications. Wal and I are more alike than we are, either of us, aligned with Dave or some of the other fellows, although we're all very good friends and we all pretty much support each other and get together from time to time and just essentially have I guess you would call it a wide-ranging scientific discussion, and occasionally Dave and Wal will put on seminars and that sort of thing, and I participate.
Hello? We're actually having some issues here with the phone lines and even with Skype. We tried it out. It might be the recent X-class flare that have been going off, and it's allegedly directed towards Earth, correct, Donald? That's
right, yeah. And they say that one should be prepared for all sorts of outages or possibly nothing at all. So maybe this is an example of it.
And this is pretty interesting stuff here, because how does kind of solar flares in this connect with the theory of the electric universe?
It's interesting. If I had arranged it with God, it couldn't have been better.
Exactly.
One of the founding fathers, really, of the plasma cosmology, the plasma ideas, is the Norwegian Christian Birkeland, and he's somewhat well known these days, more in circles that I'm in than astronomers. But he was the first person really to try to explain the aurora, the electrical effects. Prior to about 1900, nobody really knew what the aurora was. That people had seen it for years and years and decades and centuries, but nobody knew what it was due to. And Birkeland was the kind of scientist who didn't just sit behind his desk and work with his mathematics, but he got out, put himself in his fur pants and fur jacket, and he and his associates took their dog team and went out across the northern slopes of Norway and put some of observatories up there and actually got underneath the aurora and measured them. And he became convinced, and later satellites, not satellites rather, but space probes, when we were able to launch them above the ionosphere, showed that he was absolutely correct, that the aurora are due to essentially electrical particles that come from the sun and then come down through the Earth's magnetic field and light up the plasma that really is in the Earth's ionosphere. And so he was laughed at for years. That's a nutty idea. Nobody would believe that. Clearly, any kind of charged particles that made it 93 million miles from the sun to the Earth, but in that long path, they would disperse because of mutual repulsion. And of course, that isn't true because the distance there, that region, is chock-a-block with plasma, solar plasma, and it holds that stream together. And so Birkeland was absolutely right. So does the sun affect the Earth? You betcha. And Birkeland was the first man really to nail it down and to say not exactly what was happening, because in those days we didn't even talk about plasma. We hadn't even yet discovered what an electron was. He talked about corpuscles and cathode rays, the things that we don't talk about anymore. But he had generally he had it right, and his critics had it all wrong. There was a fellow by the name of Sidney Chapman, who was an English mathematician who dogged the footsteps of Birkeland for years and years. Even after Birkeland's death, Chapman would say that Birkeland was all wrong, and he didn't know what was going on. And Chapman's ideas was that the aurora was somehow due to some tidal effects in the Earth's atmosphere, and that was totally wrong. And it wasn't until, I guess, just a couple of decades, just shortly before Chapman's death, I think he finally admitted that maybe Birkeland had something right about what he said. Well,
isn't
it was all right.
Isn't there is it a university or something that is named after him, Birkeland?
No, he was at what is now the University of Oslo. Christiana University or something like that. Back in those days, back around 1900.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. And I want to return to there are a lot of other interesting persons, I guess, connected to this, like Velikovsky and people like this. But before we go into that and talking about your book and so forth, when did you first, Donald, begin to kind of look at this theory of the electric universe?
Oh gosh, it's hard to say. I've been an amateur astronomer, as you said in my introduction, for all my life, just about, and my training as an electrical engineer. But what got me started, really down this path to oblivion that I'm on right now, is that I as a professor of electrical engineering, I began to hear astronomers talk about magnetic fields and talk about some properties of magnetic fields that I knew were totally incorrect. And they were just ideas that if any of my students said this on an exam, they'd get an F. They were just totally wrong. And I said, what's going on? I mean, why do these people say things like this?